friends, and welcome to the CUInsight Network. My name is Robbie Young. I'm the Vice President of Strategic Growth here at CUInsight, and it's my job on this show to have conversations with thought leaders who support the credit union community. Today, we'll identify issues affecting credit unions and discuss best practices that help us learn from one another and strengthen our credit unions. My guest and friend on today's show is Siva Narendra, CEO and co-founder of Tyfone. Siva, thanks so much for being here.
Well, thank you for having me, Robbie. Second time in 2 years, I guess.
I know. It's always a pleasure. I learn so much every time we talk. So, as you mentioned, you were on the show a year ago, and we're so excited to have you back. In that episode last January, we chatted quite a bit about Tyfone and how you've all become a leader in creating secure, frictionless experiences for credit unions and their members. For those who may not have heard the prior episode, can you give us the elevator pitch about who Tyfone is and where you add value for credit unions?
Absolutely. The way I see Tyfone is our customers need digital as an essential footprint. It's not a luxury. We position ourselves as an innovation factory for the community bank and credit union movement. Obviously, a lot of credit union customers, because we started in the credit union industry, and we use digital banking as our foundation. Our Infinite Digital Banking platform is our base factory, if you will, that then allows for us to innovate things off of it. We've done things like built the first language model 7 years ago before people used the word language models. We have 3 specific phases in digital banking. The typical roadmap of what did we roll out and what's coming the next few quarters. But then we have a dedicated digital innovation group. They do what we call as pathfinding of future roadmaps. So that's really what differentiates us. That's really where we have a lot of inventions. Tyfone has been the birthplace of over 100 patents in the financial services space. So we use digital banking as a very important foundation and then build on top of it.
Wow. Thank you so much for that. I know that I've worked with you all for quite some time, and I think you guys add so much value for credit unions. So as AI has become more embedded into financial services, how can credit unions use technology to strengthen member relationships without sacrificing the trust and personal connection that has continued to set them apart?
That's a great question. Let me give you the scoreboard nobody's showing you, right? Only 18% of Americans would trust AI to make financial recommendations on its own, at least today. 85% trust their financial institution first. That gap is your entire competitive position, but it's a melting ice cube. Here is the race, right? The AI companies have incredible convenience, and they're working on trust. Credit unions, you all have trust, and you're working on convenience, albeit very slowly. The only question that matters then is who gets there first. So that race is on, which means the reflex bolting a chatbot onto a mobile app is exactly wrong. Your assistant can only see your accounts. The members' AI that they use from these frontier AI companies or sees all institutions a member has. It'll always give you the better answer. I mean, you really can't out-chat the chatbot, right? The move is to close the personalization gap from the trust side before they close the trust gap from the convenience side. Bring generative AI inside your own digital banking and actually giving that personalization control, not to, from a digital banking vendor perspective, we always think, okay, we'll give an SDK for our clients and they can build whatever they want. That's really not the problem. You really want the members to build what they want, not the credit unions, right? That's the big difference. That's the personalization gap that we need to close. Because at the end of the day, credit unions that has got, let's say, 100,000 members can predict what personalization means. Us as vendors can predict among our 140 customers what personalization means for them. But really, personalization is the N of one. What does the member want? We want them to personalize the platform, right? Not the credit union with an SDK or, I call SDK, still don't know what our members want, right? So personalization plus trust beats personalization alone, right? So the value gap that the frontier AI companies are trying to close is the trust gap because they have personalization. We need to close the personalization gap by not doing SDKs, not doing plus AI at the end. It's really AI first where the members get to personalize. And that's the best way to win.
That may be my new personal favorite SDK. Still don't know.
It is true. I've not seen a lot of institution win significant value because they actually use the SDK. What happens is when they use the SDK, they end up being an island of their own and the world moves past them.
Mm-hmm. So you've talked about the growing risk of credit unions becoming the invisible plumbing behind other digital experiences. How does Infinia help credit unions stay at the center of the member relationship instead of fading into the background?
That's a great question. I mean, the jury is still out whether that might happen, but it is happening in other ecosystems, so there is no reason why it can't happen here. Let me give an example. Think about your phone company, right? They add incredible value to your everyday. AT&T and Verizon carry the signal, but Netflix owns your Friday night. Nobody has ever said, I'm going to go watch some Verizon, right? That's the risk. Institution keeps the money, platform keeps the relationship. By the way, I've tested this myself. I connected 28 accounts across 8 financial institutions to Frontier AI tool through Plaid. 30 minutes, most of it running in the background. It handed me a more complete picture of my own money than any of those 8 financial institutions has ever shown me. And by the way, one of them is a very large stockbroker, right? Then it spent an hour on retirement readiness. So it was an hour-long chat. And at the end of it, I had a 18-page password-protected PDF to share with my family about what is a retirement plan. I forget the exact number of pages, but it was long enough that it was very meaningful, right? Not one of my institutions ever offered me that. Quote-unquote free consumer tool did it unprompted. I mean, it's not free because I'm paying for my tokens. So what does Infinia do about that, right? So we looked at digital banking as omni-channel. Omni-channel really here for most digital banking solutions are web and app. What we are doing is we're putting generative AI experience as the first channel of importance, all governed by, here is the main discovery in our process. The importance is AI experience is going to go in lots of places. So you need to govern what goes where with a very sophisticated rules engine and real guardrails. Dual authentication. You need to authenticate the AI agent and you need to authenticate the user. You need to have significant data controls, what gets masked, what doesn't. Basically account and PII masking. You need to have a lot of observability because you can learn from it. You need retrieval augmented generation, so you're not making things up when AI is reaching out to you. So it's the first digital banking platform, we believe, to deploy a patented decentralized cryptographic device authentication, because that is essential for you to know that you're giving the right data from the right user to the right agent, right? Otherwise, the only way you make yourself irrelevant is if frontier AI model experiences, because you can't outchat the chatbot, those become an essential delivery mechanism, just like app stores have become an essential delivery mechanism. You can't say, I'm not going to provide that information, right? You need to provide that with the right amount of guardrails through open banking, which is what Plaid uses when they connect to the likes of ChatGPT. You need to protect that information. You need to make sure that there is no account takeover, right? And the only way you can do that, you need to decentralize the authentication to the member, not in the cloud. So basically, you don't stay at the center by out-chatting the chatbot. You stay there by being the thing it has to come to. Hopefully that made sense.
Yes, that makes so much sense to me. And thank you for explaining that. When I logged on to talk to you today, that was one of the things that I thought about, and just seeing the AI model say, do you want financial help? Add us to your accounts. And I thought, that seems dangerous to me.
Yeah, indeed. But the trust gap gets closed, right? If you asked 15 years ago, and there were lots of surveys done, who do you trust with payments? And it was all banks, right? Well, Apple changed that, didn't they?
They certainly did.
The frontier AI models, the amount of money that they've raised and the amount of returns they have to provide is going to dictate they will find a way.
Right. That's so interesting. Many industry conversations focus on payments and deposits, but you've emphasized that lending is where credit unions have the greatest long-term advantage. Why is lending becoming such an important differentiator in the AI era?
So let's think about this, right? Along with AI, there are a whole bunch of things that are happening in parallel. Digital innovation continues with or without AI. AI is just accelerating that. Certainly, information is getting intercepted by aggregators. Payments are getting intercepted by wallets and new rails. Advice is getting intercepted by frontier models reading your data from a distance. So those are real challenges, and we don't have control of changing that. A loan, on the other hand, cannot be taken that way, because a loan isn't information about money. It is the money carried as risk on a regulated balance sheet for years, right? Those are the four walls that protect it, right? Cheap insured deposits. I'm not saying deposits are not important. Deposits are clearly important. It's typically around 1% funding cost. Financial institutions have a charter, a regulatory capital. They participate in the money supply, and years of private knowledge of the borrower that no outsider can see or verify, at least not yet. There is a fifth wall that's new, and it is the AI one. A credit decision has to be consistent, repeatable, explainable. A regulator has to be able to audit it. A denied application has to be told the real reasons. And generative models can help that. So that's the fine for really, obviously, when I say that's the fine, you have to build that knowledge base, because the knowledge base of understanding how to lend already exists. You have to learn the AI knowledge base, right? So that's why I believe lending matters, because lending is the money, right? On the internet, anybody can give you advice, and not everybody can give you a loan. And oh, by the way, lending without the branch network will become a challenge as time goes on, because AI systems will mimic Robbie better than Robbie can mimic herself if you're doing it digitally, right? In fact, I went through a personal experience. A very large bank reached out to me and said somebody is trying to open up a business account under my name. And the only reason why they were able to reach out to me is because my birthday was wrong. Right. Eventually, long story short, at the end of resolving that, they basically made an offer to me saying, if you sign up today, or if you give us the permission, nobody can ever open up a bank account or close a bank account remotely. You have to show up at a branch with 2 forms of ID. Right. So physical branches have a lot of meaning. And the frontier AI companies don't have that. And lending is not an area where these frontier AI companies are planning to get there. I mean, that doesn't mean they won't get there. Look what happened with Square and Rocket. So there is a finite opportunity for us to protect that channel that we will control.
And hopefully no AI Robbie comes anytime soon. I don't think the world needs that.
Well, maybe you can be doing multiple episodes at the same time.
Right, maybe. So as you look to the future, what's Typhone's focus on the road ahead, which I'm sure is ever-changing with ever-changing AI?
Yeah, it's true. You're right. Ever-changing AI is in fact very true, right? In fact, I tell my team, finger to keyboard, there has to be an LLM behind. And if you believe whatever you're doing doesn't have an LLM behind it today, check 2 minutes later, right? So now, coming back to your question on the road ahead, the oldest joke on the internet is still its deepest security flaw. I remember the cartoon on the internet, Nobody Knows You're a Dog. And as I mentioned, at a branch, we do. Here's what happened to me, as I explained earlier, the fact that I needed to show up at a branch with two forms of ID. The most sophisticated digital defense a bank that size, I mean, there was a very large bank, could offer me was physical presence. Meanwhile, AI is making it nearly free to fake a person at a distance. Synthetic identities, cloned voices, generated documents. As the cost of faking a person collapses, the value of verifying one in person rises in exact proportion. Now, there are innovations we could do that not only decentralizes authentication by using cryptography, you can also innovate to provision that identity in a decentralized manner. I know that that's a lot of lingo. The way to think about it is today, when authentication happens, whether it's for digital banking or lending, whatever happens online, you are authorized to access something based on some system verifying you sitting in the cloud. And that's the same system that verifies for millions and millions of users. So central authentication is a failed exercise. Decentralized authentication, where something in your pocket authenticates you, which is what happens with EMV chip cards, right? Your chip can't be cloned, and that's the one that verifies who you are. Verification, we know how to do it decentralized. Authentication, we know how to do it decentralized. But then how did that get there in the first place? That's what we're working on. The road ahead for us is trust is our value, which frontier AI companies can't provide. But we know nobody knows you're a dog on the internet. So we have to take the trust all the way to provisioning of the digital identity in a very decentralized manner. That's what we're working on. And we want to do that because when it comes to AI compromising systems and criminals using it, for us to win, we have to be correct every single time, and the criminal has to be lucky once. We want to make sure that we are outrunning everybody else and not try to outrun the bear, right? So that's the road ahead for us. We're spending a lot of time and energy on decentralized provisioning, decentralized authentication, and a very sophisticated rules engine that decides who gets what.
Well, if there's anybody that I think can solve this issue, it's you and your team over there at Tyfone. So I look forward to seeing more to come. To wrap up the show, we like to have some fun with the rapid fire questions. As you remember from the past, we switched yours up a little bit so that people can get to learn you even more than they did last time. Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay. So when you hear the word success, who's the first person that comes to mind and why?
Our President Abraham Lincoln. The reason is, obviously, we know the impact he's had politically in our country's history, but he's also an inventor. Invention is our primary driver of our economy. I see that as a very unique individual that is yet to be replicated.
I like it. What is a recent purchase that you didn't know you needed, but now has become something you just cannot live without?
Keurig coffee machine. I resisted because I'm an espresso guy. Every morning I have this ritual of making espresso. I still do, but it's one of those days when you got to get up and leave in 10 minutes, like this morning, getting ready for this meeting. The Keurig coffee maker was amazing purchase.
And then next you'll have to get one of those mugs that keeps it the same temperature the whole time.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh, yes. I'll have to send you the link for that. It is very odd because in our brain, we're ready for our cup of coffee to kind of like continually cool down as we drink it, but it stays a consistent temperature, exactly what you said it the entire time. So it's very interesting.
Wow, amazing.
I'll have to send you a link so you can check it out.
Absolutely. Thank you.
So other than the CUInsight Network podcast, of course, what other podcasts are you listening to?
I listen to Planet Money and Planet Money Indicator. Those are my staple to keep the pulse on the economy.
Nice. And then I know that Tyfone has a really great podcast as well that our very own Greg Micklick was interviewed for recently. So I'm sure we'll link to that too.
Yeah, that's a job description. I would like to listen to it. Thing.
Right. Certainly nice for the industry. But yes, I think the other podcasts are great to understand what's going on as well. I know that last time we talked about your best life hack for creating balance and integration between your work life and your life. Has that changed since we last talked about that?
I don't think so. I think if I'd answered it correctly last time, one of the things that gardening. Okay, that
it was gardening, and I remember this from memory. Actually, it was a neighbor in your area that was a Holocaust survivor, I believe, and right. She gardened, and then the neighborhood kind of took up the gardening with her.
That's right. Yep. And my in-laws live there now, so we continue to do the gardening. In fact, right after this call, I let her go pick up some veggies for cooking later this evening. It's just a couple of streets away from where I live. But the other thing that has really helped, I do travel a lot for work, and sometimes personal time with my significant other can be challenging. So my work just happens to be not far from my wife's, who's a professor at a university. So we commute together. When I'm in town, go to work, we commute together. So we get to spend 30 minutes in the morning, 40 minutes in the evening coming back. So that's been a very helpful sort of life hack, if you will.
For sure. That's certainly helpful to get to spend that valuable time as well. So we'll be sure to link to everything we talked about today in the show notes. But my last question for you is, do you have any final thoughts that you'd like to share or asks of our listeners?
Yes, I know it might feel like everything we talked about today sounds like a list of losses: data gone, relationship gone, payments walking. But I think it is important to note that the tool, the generative AI systems that have potentially accelerating these disadvantages are exactly the same tools that could accelerate our advantages. And lending is at the center of it. The physical branch, the underwriting judgment, the loan officer who actually knows the borrower, those are the exact three things that this industry has spent last 15 years or so telling us these are liabilities. They're not. They are the only asset in the stack that cannot be copied remotely. That's
so important to hear and gives me hope too. Thank you so much, Siva, for being on the show. For episodes like this one and for more across the credit union movement, visit CUInsight.com to read, explore, and subscribe. Stay well, and thanks to all of our listeners for tuning in today. We'll be back again next time.